Good evening, ladies and gents, and welcome to the first round of the ASRC Formula 3 World Series, taking part at Autopolis International. It's going to be some great racing here this evening with 18 cars on the grid for you, ready to do action after some great pre-season testing long ago at Valencia. So the teams have had plenty of time to get up to scratch, ready for today's race, and there's going to be a lot to do, that's for sure. 2 sprint races for you, split by a 5-minute warm-up session. session, but first, of course, they all have to qualify and get ready for the race itself. That's their final opportunities to fine-tune their vehicles to make sure that they are ready for the race, and a lot of performance to come from these guys, that is for sure. Very tight grid from practice from what I've seen so far, and fingers crossed we'll see plenty of wheel-to-wheel racing. Of course, everyone's in the same chassis, same cars. The only thing that changes is their personal preference when it comes to aerodynamics, front and rear wings available to them, and of course the setup in terms of suspension and so on and so forth. It's going to be a great season ahead of us. Today, of course, at Autopolis, the first round followed by Okayama, and then following over to Europe where we have the Red Bull Ring and Silverstone and the Nürburgring, the GP circuit, and then we go to Australia and New Zealand for Sydney Motorsport Park, Melbourne, and also the final round in New Zealand as well, all running up to the 22nd of November for us. So a lot of racing to be done, and that means there's going to be plenty of rounds in between as well. And the drivers are currently just doing their qualifying at the moment. We've got 15 minutes or so in order to get that all said and done, and while we do that, we'll quickly head over to them and see who is able to get onto the front row first. So let's quickly bring up the timing then. As you can see, 30 minutes of qualifying is underway as the guys try to find a bit of open track space and warm up those tyres. It's going to be very crucial for them in the early stages. Try and get that time nice and early as possible, and hopefully be able to fend off as many guys as they can. And of course, with these cars, the tyre pressure and the tyre temperature is crucial for these Formula 3 cars, especially at the track such as Autopolis. There's a lot of high-speed corners to be had, and that's going to play havoc with those tyre temps and tyre degradation as well. Of course, no tyre changes here as far as I'm aware. It's just going to be sprint racing from start to finish, and fingers crossed everyone will make it through in one piece. So at the top of the timing board is Hanko for Royal Blue Racing. These guys have been around for some time in the R-Factor 2 scene. From what I remember, they actually raced with us a few times at CFS when we used to host our own championships. And they are currently occupying the top of the leaderboard, and they're the first to go around the circuit at the moment. Just coming through Sector 1 now, and when we get a chance to, we'll go on board with some of the guys to get a first eye view of the track as well. So fingers crossed we can get that done. And Autopolis is going to be quite a technical circuit. Through Sector 1, it gets very fast before slowing things right down for the really tight corners. Plenty of 180 degrees turns to be had before speeding right up once again for Sector 2. That's where things get very technical indeed. And then just when you think you get a break on the run down towards Sector 3, we have this huge combination of high-speed corners. Smoke coming off this particular car in question as he goes through the final corner. So a few times coming onto the board now. What times are we looking at then for this evening? 128.2 is the fastest at the moment, and Hanko goes even faster with 127.218 on the board. That is your baseline for tonight, ladies and gents. Let's see who can actually keep up with that particular pace. It's an entire second clear of Patrick in second place. So it's a very good qualifying session there from Patrick Hanko for the time being. Good way to start the season, of course. Now with Patrick Rozak at the moment, he's on 128.2, so he's got to find plenty of time in order to join Patrick on that front row. As he comes through Sector 2 now, coming down into Sector 3. It's a long drive here. It's going to be plenty of overtaking opportunities down the hill into turn 12. Smoke coming off those tyres as he tries to throw the car through the corner. It takes a bit too much speed through turn 13, unfortunately, and that's pretty much ended that. Sector 2 is very slow indeed, so not a personal best there from Patrick. We'll have to wait for another opportunity. Guys coming into the pit stops for new tyres and probably for a bit more fuel. Of course, they are allowed to run on very low tanks. Okay, we're on board with the 13 at the moment as he comes through the third sector. He's actually setting Green's personal bests at the moment for sectors 1 and 2 Is it on par with the front runners, though? That is the question. He's a bit slower than first place, but it could still be a very competitive time indeed, and it is. It's P5 there for the 13 car as he comes across the start finishing line. That's a 28.8. Still plenty of time to be found. He's actually 1.5 seconds off the Royal Blue Racing number 10, which currently sits in first place, and both of the cars there going off track, probably pushing a bit too much in qualifying. And we're now sub 10 minutes remaining. And Patrick Hanko currently going out on a warm-up lap, so we'll try our best to stay on board with Patrick as he comes to the end of his current warm-up lap and hopefully get a perfect on-board view of Autopolis International Speedway. And as this track's had plenty of action throughout the years, made in 1990, and since then it's had Group C cars all the way through to Formula 3s and even Super GTs, so plenty of usage on this particular set of tarmac in the real world. And fingers crossed we're going to make our own slice of history in the virtual one too. As Patrick now navigates his way through into Sector 3. Has a bit of traffic ahead. And we'll go on board now. As he's blipping the throttle, trying to maintain as much speed as possible. This is the final sector coming through turn 14 and 15. Turn 18, my apologies. This is the final corner before coming down onto the main straight. This is where the slipstream effect will be at its most effective as I come zooming down past the start-finishing line, the longest part of the circuit. Over to the left-hand side then, setting up for the next flying lap. Braking heavily, carrying as much speed as possible through the apex of turn 1. We want to maintain that momentum because there's another very long straight as we come down into turns 3. It's a fast right-hand kink followed by a left-hand turn. You want to carry that speed because it's a double left-hander before slowing things right down where you've got the hairpin of turn 6. This could be a good overtaking opportunity if you're close enough to drive down the inside. Speeds back up again for turns 8 and 9. This is a very elongated turn. You've got to maintain that same momentum in order to make that work, and then hug the inside line as you approach the straight towards turn 11. Slow things down right again once more, and then punch straight back out again. This is a great overtaking opportunity come race time because you're downhill, the slipstream is in effect, you can go for the inside. It's a fast right-hander, which is turn 12, followed by immediate turn right again for turns 13. Then stay mid-circuit and then swing it over to the left, and then followed by another double right-hand corner. That's turns 15 and 16. Slow it slightly for turn 16 and then swing over to the left-hand side for turn 17. There's a small pause before entering the final penultimate corner, which is turn 18, and then it's a small kink to the left to punch out onto the start finishing straight. That is Autopolis International, and Patrick Hanko comes across the start finishing line improving on his personal best. It's a 126.7, ladies and gents, for the number 10. Royal Blue Racing really putting their mark down on the racetrack nice and early here in this championship series, and that is pretty much blown the competition out of the water for the time being. We also have Patrick Rozak. He is in second place. He's improved that last time by as well, 126.7 for the number 34, so he is also up there with the guys on top. He still needs to find a few more attempts if he's going to challenge though, and then it's a very large gap indeed till we see the third place man, which is Gero in the 79. This is Scuderia Kappa Racing, and he's just improving on his personal best, and he does a 126. It's a 128.046, so it is a slight improvement on his personal best, but still a long way off that front row, unfortunately. Vladislav Zenkov in the Zenkov Racing 5. Coming across the start finishing line is a good first sector, bad sector 2. It is an improvement of his personal best, but once again, still plenty of time to be found, unfortunately, in order to get close to that front row. Francesco in the 15. He's on a warm-up lap at the moment with his teammate in his rear view mirror as well. Looks like they're going to potentially go for a tow here as he lets his teammate bite. New 4th place sitter at the moment, which is the 13. That's Toyota Simsports, and that's a 120. Sorry, that is a 128.5 on the board, which puts him up into 4th place. Vladimir Senkov being demoted for the time being as we get to the end of the qualifying session. Looks like nobody's going to be able to challenge Patrick Hanko, unfortunately. The 126.7 is the time to beat. Patrick Rozak is on a 127.158, so still a bit of work to do. Let's have a quick look at his outlap as he just gives way to one of the yellow cars. Very nice paint schemes in this championship from what I'm seeing as well, which is always lovely to see. And we'll stay with Patrick now for the 34 Forza Simsport, and let's see if they can improve this time by. He's just coming through sector 2 and the hairpin of turn 11, so it'll be some time before he goes out on track. Is there any person doing purple laps at the moment? That is the question. There's a few changes in the order. The 79 is currently sitting in pit lane. They've improved up into 3rd place. 128.046, and some guys now coming into pits potentially for the final time. There's still an opportunity to go for one more lap if necessary. And we have Francesco currently on a fast lap. He's setting a good 1st sector, good 2nd sector as well. Still not going to be good enough for pole position, but we may see him move up the order. Coming through the final corner now. Zooming across the start finishing line. What's it going to be? His fastest at the moment is a 28.8. And it's P4 there for the 15. He must be happy with that. It's a 28.1, so he moves up by 3 positions. Some of the other guys getting demoted quite far down. Nick Stefanenko comes across the start finishing line for advanced competition. He moves down into P6 after having what seemed like a good lap, but he's already being pushed down the order. And here's the flying lap now from Patrick Rozak. He's sitting in 2nd place, and that right there, that small seizure, he's already had a bad sector 1, a 29.6. That's nowhere near competitive. That's nowhere near what it needs to be. He's going to have to find some extra pace somewhere if he's going to bring this one around. And I think he's actually backed out of this particular lap. He doesn't seem to be carrying much speed at all. No. Let's go on board then for a short moment. There may be another flying lap here from Patrick Rozak. This is the only person that can realistically challenge Patrick Hanko from Royal Blue Racing. So here we go, off across the start finishing line, going on board once again here for one final time. Only 1 minute 22 seconds left in qualifying, and he's pretty much cooked that instantly. Unfortunately there for Patrick, it's not ended well. The car completely sideways and rotating. It just seemed to be carrying too much speed through the corner. Already the tyres had seized even before we got to the apex, and it just rotated round as he went onto the curbing on the exit. So unfortunately he won't be challenging for the front row. And Patrick Hanko seems to be our first pole sitter in this Formula 3 championship. Still plenty of cars going around though. Let's see if they can make something of it. Of course, it has to be said that these cars are very hard to drive as well, so it's not easy to tackle these things. They haven't got any ABS, there's no traction control, so extremely easy to seize the tyres and to lose control. You have to be so fine with the steering inputs with these cars. And of course, being the first race of the season, they've had testing at Valencia, as already mentioned, but they may need to still fine-tune their driving style and just adapt to the car ever so slightly. The 13 comes across the start finishing line now, improves up into P7, so it's a small gain there, as we now have the checkered flag out, ladies and gents. So that is pretty much the end of qualifying. Still a few guys out on circuit. Luca Martino in the 77 is improving on his personal best on this final run. His personal best is a 129.1, and it's a 28.1 first sector, so that's on par with P6 35.3 for sector 2, and he's pushing really hard here as he comes through the final sector. Is it going to be pushing too much though, because he was a bit unsettled coming through some of the apexes here. And now coming on to the final corner, punching out of that final apex as he comes towards the start finishing line. Isn't going to be improvement here for Luca Martino. In the 13, it is up into 9th place, 128.7. He finds an extra 4 tenths on his personal best, and he is one of the last runners here, unfortunately. Alex Maloney in the 41 coming across the start finishing line. And I think these guys are the final 2 runners. They stay P18 for the time being. So that is your qualifying session done and dusted, ladies and gents. I do believe we will go to a warm-up session before we go racing, but I will wait to confirm that. But yeah, now 2 sprint races next up for us in the Formula 3 World Series Championship. First race will be shorter than the first, so it's going to be a sprint race, and then the second race will be much longer, so I have to focus much more, and we may even see a few pit stops if necessary, because of course soft compound tyres will not last long here at Autopolis at all. So just while we wait for the guys to line up onto the grid and get ready for the first race this evening, let's quickly run through the order and see who ended up where, shall we? So Patrick Hancock of Royal Blue Racing taking the first ever pole position in the Formula 3 World Series, followed by Patrick Rosax. Then it's Gero in the 79, and then followed by Andrea Rudio. Then Francesco in the 15, followed by the 35, Valerio Ferraris. Dromo Fentis in the 13, and then Nick Stefanenko in P9. Luca Martino in P9, Velozenkov in P10. Christoforos in P11, and then Antonis in P12. Just outside, we've got Victor Cabello in P13. Advanced competition in 14. Then we have Gela Batalla in P15, and then Christiana in P16. Alexi in P17. Alex Maloney in P18. Christian in 19th, and then Peter Zoba in the Royal Blue Racing, the sister car, having a terrible afternoon in P20. So there's 20 cars on the grid for you, ladies and gents, and that's the starting order for this evening. So fingers crossed the guys are going to get through turn 1 all in one piece, and we do have a 5-minute warm-up session for you before we go racing. Just while the guys get warmed up, so they'll probably be going out on circuit at the moment, just doing a few warm-up laps, testing a final few changes if they have made any before going out on track one final time. And of course, this is a great opportunity for us to ask if you are interested in the series at all, to look in the description below. You can find all the links to these guys if you are interested in joining them. There's their Discord link, their website, their Facebook. You can get in touch via any of these means if you are interested in joining the series. And of course, if you are enjoying the stream, check out Chequered Simsports and our website. Feel free to look at the links in the description and hit us up if you need an event covered such as this. But yeah, it was a great result there for Patrick and Royal Blue Racing. They've got the first bragging rights there of having the fastest lap from the series, and plenty more of racing to come as well, as we have a quick look at the schedule. Of course, today Autopolis International, and then Okayama, which is also a fantastic track. I've raced there many times myself in my day. And it's definitely one of those tracks that's going to ask a lot of these drivers, especially over the course of a few races. Then we head over to Europe with the Red Bull Ring, Silverstone GP, and Nürburgring. Of course, all classics in their own right, and there will definitely be a challenge for those who aren't ready and up to the task. Red Bull Ring especially, a lot of high-speed corners there in particular. That's going to be a really tall ask. Silverstone, you've got Maggots and Beckett's, and also Copse Corner. Those three corners, or section of corners alone, will be enough for anyone to struggle with. And then Nürburgring, that doesn't need any introduction really, does it? That is just one hell of a tough race. And then we head over to Australia, Sydney Motorsport Park, Melbourne GP, and I don't know how to pronounce that last track, to be honest, but the one in New Zealand, I know for a fact that it is shutting down very shortly, so that's sad news, but these guys are getting there before it does so. Luckily for these guys, it's going to be a nice, clear racing day for all involved. Of course, these Formula cars will be a very different story if it was raining here, as it does a lot in Japan as well. Of course, we all hear the legendary tales of Fuji and the like, all suffering from heavy torrential rain. But it's going to be nice, clear weather for both our races this evening. And the air temperature is only 11 degrees and 39 on the track. So track temp might be a bit of an issue, considering that is quite high. That may play a little bit into tyre degradation, and we'll have to wait and see how much of a factor that will become as the race unfolds. Of course, we've only seen them in qualifying at the moment. That's pretty much set your fastest lap once they're warmed up, come in, and then get a new set. So it's not really that big of an issue for them at the moment. However, when we go into the race, that will be a different story. They'll have to really look after that set compound, otherwise risk losing loads of positions in the process. And just while we're waiting one final time for the guys, we'll have the starting order up on screen for you to have a little look as we wait just 1 minute until we go racing for the first time here in the Formula 3 World Series, hosted by ASRC. So looking at those qualifying times then, it looks like Patrick Hanko will be the man to beat this evening. He had at least 0.4 seconds an advantage over the rest of the grid. That's a really tall ask for any person to muster up, especially in a series where everyone's got the same car bar the paint scheme that they're carrying. You know, they must have practiced quite substantially in order to gain an advantage such as that. And although we was on with Patrick, who was also in second place, just behind, he tried to give it everything he had, but unfortunately messed up that last flying opportunity that he had. Came across the start finishing line down into turn one and spanned the car 180 degrees, just carrying too much speed. So very fine line to tread with these cars. They will bite back if you try to push them too far. And that's going to be the case when getting these things up to spec as well. There's a few guys actually starting to practice their starts on the start-finish straight, so that's a very wise thing to do. And only 4 seconds left in the warm-up session now as we get ready to go racing. So we just need to wait for the announcement from race control to switch over to the race session, and then we will get things underway for you, ladies and gents. All the guys currently sitting in their garages patiently waiting. Some guys still out on track trying to find that extra bit of pace as much as they can. Of course, again, this is a fairly new series, so they will be eager to try and familiarise themselves with the cars as much as possible. Not too sure what the delay is. Maybe it needs to be manually set over to the next session. But it has been the end of warm-up now for some time. And some of the cars coming in for the final time. So, not too sure what's happening here, but as we wait for us to go over to the race session, seems to be some sort of delay going on before going into the race. But not to worry, we'll quickly run through the starting order again if you're just joining us. And fingers crossed we'll get up and running in a short moment's time. So quickly looking at the start grid then, it is Royal Blue Racing on pole position, Patrick Zach in second place, and then Scuderia Kappa Racing in P3, Andrea Rudio in P4, then Francesco in P5, Valerio Ferraris P6, both cars in the top, just outside the top 5, Toyota Gome Sport in P7, and then Nick Stefanenko in 8th. Luca Martino in P9, and then Vladislav Zenkov rounding out those top 10 positions. Christoforos in P11, and then Tonius in P12. Victor Cabello in 13th. Guillem Rigo in 14th. Gerard Batalla in 15th, and then Christian Olari in 16th. And I believe we are getting ready to go racing in a short moment's time, as the rest of the starting order is on screen for you there, as it rounds up the final few positions, going all the way to P20th. And some of the guys starting to warm up their tyres already, just making sure his steering is calibrated correctly. Of course, all the things of sim racing, wonderful. And there will be 14 laps in our first race here this evening, 14 laps to be had, and a great opportunity to score some early points and take the lead of the championship ahead of the rest of the competition. What a way to start that would be for Patrick Hanko and Royal Blue Racing. I'm sure they would love to do so. As we wait for the rest of the grid to line up. Oh, actually they've been put back into the grid. Maybe an issue here. We haven't been informed of any problems. We've gone back to the warm-up session, unfortunately, so I believe maybe someone got disconnected from the session, or perhaps there may be a problem elsewhere, it seems. Hopefully we'll skip straight back into the race. We'll have to wait and see. I'll see if there's anything being said by race control. Not that I can see it for the time being, unfortunately. We'll go straight back to the... yeah, we're skipping straight back into the session. Do apologise for the delay, ladies and gents. Of course, it's not easy running a championship. There are a few issues to tease out, especially for the guys down on the ground. It's very difficult with all of this going on. So we are now back into the first race, 14 laps once again, now asking for all of the drivers to line up once more onto the start-finish line. Okay, so this car's starting to take their places on the grid now. Fingers crossed we can get racing very shortly. They are starting to populate into their respective starting grid. Not too sure why the grid, perhaps they've chosen reverse grid, but Patrick Hanco's all the way down in P12 at the moment. We have Christoforos Kariolis in the 11 car on pole position for the time being as we wait for the warm-up lap before going racing. One of the guys starting from pit lane, so this is crucial part of the race here, warming up those tyres, making sure all your dials, buttons, settings are in order. So this is the last final opportunity to rectify any mistakes, to make sure that everything is as it should be before we go racing for the first time in this series. And somebody's already got a penalty, maybe not too sure why that would be, for lepping. So let's see if we can find him on screen to find out what exactly has gone wrong for the 16. That's the one that started from pit lane, so perhaps an issue by race control or maybe the server. But he's trying to catch back up to the rest of the grid, but somehow he's been issued a penalty by the server at the same time, which is unfortunate. That's going to be a sad day for him. And just following the 13 at the moment. And our leader is now starting to come around the final corner, or the penultimate corner, should I say. Setting the pace. And it's very important for the leader here, Christoforos, will need to maintain the speed and make sure the grid is as compact as possible as he starts his lineup to the grid, because of course as soon as he stops, his tyre temperature is going to drop like a stone, because there's no more pressure, no more traction going into those tyres. So if he gets there too quickly, he will be in a really bad position come the drop of the green flag. So he needs to wait until that last car lines up, and if that takes too long, then the competition could pounce before we get down into turn 1. So very important for him. He's actually left quite a substantial gap to the cars behind, Luca Martino being third alongside Nick Stefanenko in P4. So that is really troubling for him, because the line grid's up now, all 20 cars coming into view. What a sight that is. All these Formula 3 cars getting ready to race. Rounding out the back end is Peter Zobe in the 22. He will be the last to line up on the grid as we wait for the green flag to drop. The countdown begins and we are officially racing, and it's a really bad start there by Kariolis. Vladislav Senkov takes the lead of the race. Nick Stefanenko and Luca Martino take the positions away as he drops even further down now. Christoph, and there's a car off in the background there. That is, I think that's Gerald Batalla. He's completely off there for Royal Blue Racing. He's lost his front wing after contact with one of the guys as they came down into turn 1, although it seems like the rest of the grid has made through in one piece. Even further contact in the background there. Valerio Ferraris up into P8 as well, so we're seeing positions being exchanged all over the place, and his teammate makes contact just up ahead with actually who was the pole sitter, Christoforos, in the number 11. He's dropped all the way down the order. There's a car going off onto the top right there, so quite a bit of carnage unfolding in the opening lap here for this particular series. Not too sure if we're going to see yellow flags come out or a restart, because there's a lot of chaos here. The two teammates alongside as the top 3 cars start to sprint away towards turn 12. Almost side by side there between Francesco and Juama in the 13. Bit of a slow moment here for Valerio as Christoforos tries to regain some composure. He's now in P7 as some of the cars go off track. So he's able to compose himself, find a bit of pace now. Patrick Rozak is next in line, though. He's looking very eagerly on that rear wing to try and overtake. And he's got to go and take it super easy. These tyres will not be up to temperature just as of yet. They can start to push in a few laps' times, perhaps, as Vladislav Zenkov takes the lead of the race and officially starts the second flying lap. Luca Martino takes second place away from Nick Stefanenko as they all come piling down into Sector 1. In the background there, we have a potential fight between Valerio Ferraris and Francesco in the 15 car. These guys are teammates, as mentioned before, so they've got to be very careful about where they place their cars. Don't want any contact between these two guys at all. Patrick Rozak still trying to give chase to Christoforis, and he's also got Peter behind as well. That's part of the Royal Blue Racing team, I believe. And of course the question is now, do you attack early on while the field is still compact and risk being overtaken yourself, or do you wait for another opportunity when you start to find those groups that we're used to seeing in these types of races? Now there's battles taking place all up and down the order. Let's have a look at Patrick Rozak, because he is in a really nice battle here for P7. Christoforos hanging on still with everything he has as they all come through the penultimate corner. He's trying to get a late entry into the final corner. He's actually going to run wide here onto the grass. The car is unsettled. Here comes Peter Zobek. He's looking for the opportunity. Will the slipstream be in his favour, though, as they all switch over to the left-hand side as they start lap 3 of 14 here? Single file, still very neat and tidy as they start the next flying lap. Vladislav Zenkov is pulling away in the lead from Luca Martino in the 77. The gap up to 1.2 seconds now. We'll stay with this fight between these 6 cars at the moment, because this is where the action is. And best lap time there set by Zenkov. So the pace is only increasing. 1:30 side by side here between these two. Up into P7. They make contact with each other. Francesco on the inside. And he has to settle back into 5th. And they're still side by side even now. Up onto the inside as we come into Sector 3. The double right-hander. He's being pushed onto the outside. Tyre rubbing as they come through the corner. He's onto the curb. Onto the grass almost. Still, drama will not yield in the 13. All on contact in the background there. And there's 3 cars collected. That is Andre Rudia in the, I think that's Advanced Motorsport there, is out of this race. He's still able to get it back up and running, but all positions lost all the way down into P15. That all came to a close. But then again, these two still going at it. Francesco round the outside. Brilliant move there. On the attack, onto the first corner. Francesco sent it all the way around the long way and able to take that position away from Joema. That is fantastic driving indeed. The battle still continues. He now finds himself in a pretty precarious position in between these 2 cars. And so Francesco in the 15 goes wide. Regains his composure though. Back on it once again. Now Valerio Ferraris wants some of the action as well. He's seen his teammate go by. He wants to get on the attack as well. Be a great take home for the team to have both cars in the points this evening. Very aggressive on the curbs there from Ferraris though. And he's now starting to fall back into Patrick Rozak's jaws. He's only a further 0.5 seconds behind. He's already done a good job to overtake Rigo in the number 12, and he's already making good headway towards these guys, so it won't be long now before he takes part in this fight as they will come on to the start finish straight. This is a good battle here between Nick Stefanenko and Luca Martino for second place Into the first corner they both go. Fighting for these podium positions very early on indeed. Only 5 laps elapsed out of 14 here so far. Stefanenko going very deep into the corner at turn 11. He's onto the grass. That's going to cost him a ton of time as he tries to get back up to speed. Francesco in the 15 car in 4th place at the moment. He's going to be looking eagerly on. That'll take him some time to rectify that problem. He's going to have dirtied those right tyres. Yes, it is right tyres as they touch the grass. That's going to be a bad day for Stefanenko for the time being. This battle still continues though. Valerio Ferraris, Patrick Rozak in the 34. He is slowly but surely closing this gap down. The gap down to half a second as we come on to the next flying lap. And only 10 laps remaining. And we've had 2 retirements so far. Unfortunately, Andrea Rude did not continue the race after that contact. And also Christoforos, the man who started on pole position, also retiring at this stage of the race. Patrick Rozak's now closing up to Ferraris for the time being. We've also got this battle for 2nd place. Luca Martino now under pressure. The slipstream helping Stefanenko. He's down the inside into turn 11. He's actually got the position, although he hasn't. Somehow Martino punched out of the corner with enough space and time, gets ahead and able to hold off Nick Stefanenko for 1 more lap at least. On to the start, finish straight. Here we go on as they navigate the final corner. On board with Nick Stefanenko as he comes onto the final corner. It was a really bad exit, in fact, and that's allowed the teammate there, Francesco, to get on by in the 15 car. So now it's a 1-2 there for Arms Kriber. And the team doing very well at the moment. They're going to come home with a double podium position here. The only person that's able to stop them is Vladislav Zenkov. He now leads after all of this fighting by a whopping 3.5 seconds. And Francesco seems to be on a really strong push at the moment. He's even starting to apply pressure to Luca, his teammate, in 2nd place. Will they be able to abide by team orders, or are they going to fight it out to take these positions? That is the question. Coming down into turns 11. Looks down the inside. That gap is extremely close now. 0.2 seconds as they come down the hill towards turn 12. Puffs of smoke coming off Martino's car. But he just seems a lot stronger through this second of corners. Actually, he's gone onto the grass, carrying too much speed through those high-speed corners. We talked about this. It's a fine balance in these Formula 3 chassis. You've got to be so delicate with your steering inputs. Otherwise, it can spell doom. But manages to get it back onto the grey stuff and continue on without any dramas. And it's a 3-way fight now for 2nd place. This is fantastic stuff. All 3 cars coming onto the start-finish straight. And we've also got the rest of the grid starting to join in as well. Here comes Nick Stefanenko under slipstream conditions. They go too wide in defence. Both teammates playing together. Oh, and there's contact between Nick Stefanenko and also Francesco in the 15. He's gone completely sideways, regained it, but now they are in a lot of trouble. The rest of the grid has somehow caught up now and in a position to attack. This, of course, is fantastic news for the race leader. He's able to just simply drive away into the distance. He doesn't have any battles on his radar for the time being. Nick Stefanenko now under pressure from Francesco. He's trying to give chase. There's battles up and down the order inside the top 10, ladies and gents. I can't keep track of everything that's going on. Here we are, two wide fight between Ferraris and Juama in the 13. Coming through turns 11, although it's a bad exit, rode a lot of the curb there, did Ferraris. Struggled to get the power back down. And coming into sector 3. This is a battle for third then. Stefanenko leads the way all the way down into P7. Rozak is a further 1 second behind, so extremely close here between all of these guys. Nick Stefanenko starting to regain some pace as well and catch up to Luca Martino. So basically from second all the way down to 9th, we have a very marginal gap between all cars. Going up into the order, we have Ferraris going too wide momentarily before coming back into running order. And also we just missed an overtake there from Francesco in the 15 on Nick Stefanenko. He's now down outside of those podium positions into 4th place. So overtakes happening all over the place. Oh, and he nearly touches Luca Martino. In fact, he does. He attacks the back end of his teammate's car. There's no love between these two, it seems. As they come through sector 2 now, side by side for second place. The two teammates go. Francesco gets the lead over Luca Martino. Nick Stefanenko wants in on the action as well, and he goes into the barrier. There's contact between the two of them. Late braking there for Nick Stefanenko just momentarily, and that's all it took to send him into the wall. It hits the back end of Luca Martino's car, and he goes into the barrier. Meanwhile, Juama in the 13 is ready and standing by to take advantage of all of this chaos. He's now up into 3rd place for Toyota Gonesport. He's done a fantastic job of reading the road ahead of him, and now he is in a position to score some nice points then. In the meantime, Luca Martino under pressure from Valerio Ferraris, another teammate for the Arms Racing team. And then Patrick Roska also looking to get by. Oh, looks like a bit of a moment there for one of the cars. That's Rigo in the number 12. Now being overtaken there, unfortunately, by Gero for 7th place after one of the cars goes onto the grass. And a mistake, a massive mistake by Patrick Rozak. He spun completely on the exit of turn 1. He's now lost all of that hard work. He was looking to fight potentially for top 5 position. And with only 4 laps to go, it looks like that's going to be a very tall order indeed. Whereas Nick Stefanenko, he is in the pits at the moment, trying to repair the front wing of his car. No doubt also has some suspension damage to go with that as well, for good measure. Rigo in P6 and the number 12 at the moment on board as we come down into the 3rd sector, turn 12. Oh, big mistake there from Luca Martino. His race is really starting to unfold for him. It's not going well at all. Another mistake there from the 77. That has pretty much ended his afternoon, at least for this particular sprint race. All the way from 4th down to 10th. He was fighting for a podium position just a few laps ago. So this has really gone sideways. Anyway, back to the fight here for 4th place. Ferrari's defence against Rigo. Coming down into the first corner. He's got the inside line, does Rigo. Brakes nice and early. Racing room given between these two as they come into the run down towards turns 3. Rigo looking once again down the inside. Thinks better of it, waiting for another opportunity. No door open for turns 4 and 5. He'll have to wait for the hairpin, which is now turn 6. Speeding straight back up for the left-hander, the double king, at turns 8 and 9. This is great racing between these two. down the hill. This would be a great opportunity here for Rigo if he can get under slipstream, although he looks like he may have struggled slightly on the run down. Maybe he will spinning on the exit. He's going to have to wait for another opportunity. Gotta say, I do love the last sector here at Autopolis. It's so fast, so high speed. You need to be switched on at all times. There's not a single break, and if you miss out a single corner, the whole sector is ruined because it will set you off or put you off entry for the next corner. But here comes now Rigo on Ferraris, closing that gap, using the slipstream to its advantage. He's able to close the gap down just by a small tenth or two as we come into the next lap. And also, Joama Ventis in the 13 is currently sitting tidy in third. But he's also losing ground to these two at the moment. So we will have a podium fight on our hands, ladies and gents, as we come into the next few laps. On board with Ferraris as he comes down into sector 3. You can just hear how many different applications of throttle they're having to make. It has to be so gentle coming into these final few corners. The precision alone, you know, and these cars have quite a bit of downforce on them as well. There's not a lot of weight to them either, of course. It's all about lightness. As he comes down into the final corner, hugs down the inside and then flings it straight back over to the left. Looks like he may have lost some time there. Rigo's still on his tail. Slipstream coming into effect. Here comes Rigo. Looks down the inside now. Here comes the attack down for 4th place. He takes the inside line. Oh, and it's a seizure there from Rigo. He saves it somehow. Ferraris has to go onto the grass in avoidance. And they now have a drag race down turn 3. Rigo still holds the inside line, though. He will have the advantage for the time being. And he's taken that position. It was a bold move there from Rigo. I didn't think he was going to be able to make that last. But somehow he saves it from spinning completely around. And now up into 4th place. Let's have a quick look at this battle for P7. Patrick Rozak and Jura Kaleja fighting on. And the gap is starting to increase now between Patrick and the 79. It's up to half a second as we start our next lap here. Only a few left. In fact, just the second to last lap. 13 of 14 completed here. Our leader, which is Zenkov in the number 5, has had a fantastic race. He's up by 9 positions since the start of this race. He's done a fantastic job reading the traffic and just cutting through where opportunities were opened. And Zenkov Racing and the number 5 will be in no doubt a great position at the start of this championship in the next few laps, provided nothing goes wrong. Battle to the battle here. We have 2 to pick from. Let's go for the one in the podium position because Joama Fentis and Rigo are coming together. It seems. It looks like the 13 is struggling for pace in the last few moments of this race. And Rigo now starting to apply the pressure for advanced competition. Now Rigo's also had a fantastic rate, up by 10 positions, and here comes the move down into the hairpin. I wasn't expecting that so soon. Finds the inside line, just puts the nose of the car in. Has to settle in back behind, but that would have been unsettling for sure there for Joama. And here come into the final hairpin at turn 11. This is a good opportunity. He's going around the outside is Rigo. That's a bold move there once again from advanced competition. That's a fantastic move, in fact. He's coming down around the outside, sprinting down to the bottom of the hill. He's got the position. Here, could we see a switch back here from Joama? No, we can't. And we're now into the really high-speed corners where you have to be switched on. Joama's made a mess of it completely as he loses ground Rigo has now claimed third place on what is the final lap. Hanko, in the meantime, sets a new fastest lap. As we get to the checkered flag, your race winner for this evening, Vladislav Zenkov, in the number 5 there for Zenkov Racing. Fantastic drive from him, made up tons of positions from the drop of the green flag, and is your first victor for this evening. Then we have Francesco in the 15. He is your second place winner, takes home that silver trophy for the first time this evening here at Autopolis. And then, of course, Rigo for advanced competition. That is a fantastic closing fight we had from him. He has come across in style after that last minute overtake on Joama, who has to settle for 4th place. That is really good racing. Got to love it. And we now wait for the rest of the grid to come across the start finishing line. As they have their in-laps. So some of the cars already retiring, but some obviously deciding to come into the pits manually. But let's have a look at the official results for you as we wait for our second race of this evening to finally take place. Oh, sorry, can't find my words there. So taking the first victory here in the ASRC Formula 3 World Series Championship, Vladislav Zenkov in Zenkov Racing, the number 5 there, taking victory. He pretty much had a race on his own, it has to be said. Did very well to slice through the traffic, and then it was pretty much about just maintaining that pace as the rest of the grid did battle behind. Francesco in the 15 for Arms Kriber Racing in second place. He too actually overtook and even made contact with his teammate. I think there'll be a few words after that. So he takes the silver trophy for the team, and then Rigo for advanced competition and the number 12 taking that third place away from Joama Fentis. Toyota Gome Sport coming home in P4 after that great last minute battle on the final lap. Then Valerio Ferraris, the second of the Arns Cuba Racing teams, in P5. So still a good haul of points for the team there. Antonius in the 16 Scuderia Kappa Racing team, home in P6. And then we have AM Forza Simsport with Patrick Roska in P7. Peter Zoba in the Royal Blue Racing car, a bad afternoon for them after setting the fastest lap times of this evening, coming home in P8. And then Jero Kalija in the Scuderia Kappa Racing in the 79 in 9th place. Victor Cabello in the Toyota Gome Sport rounds out the top 10 for the first round here. Moving outside then, we have Luca Martino. Of course, we saw him doing battle for second and third place in the start of this evening's race, but all unfolded in those closing stages. It just all went wrong. Mistakes, especially in the third sector, and just seemed to unravel for him. Unfortunate, but he comes home in P11. Christian Olari Lepping in Racing Matters Most in P12. And then we have Gerald Batalla in 13th for Royal Blue Racing, the second of the cars. Nick Stefanenko obviously had that contact coming into turn 11. The hairpin went straight into the concrete barrier when fighting for position inside the top 10. Comes home in 14th place, so still, it's got to be said, a nice recovery considering all that happened. And then Christian in the Racing Matters Most 99 in P15. Alexei Morsiv in the AM Forza Simsport in 16th place. Patrick Hanko, the person who had the fastest lap in qualifying, unfortunately DNFing and retiring from this particular race. And then we have Andre Rudio in advanced competition. He also retired. And then Christoforos, the man that started on pole position here this evening, also retired after early contact in the race. So there are your results for the first ever race here at Autopolis International and the Formula 3 World Series hosted by ASRC. And yeah, I mean, I don't really know what to say about that. It was plenty of action from start to finish, it has to be said. A lot of contact on the first lap as well, which was unfortunate to see. But we got there in the end, and it looks like we had some great fights for those final 2 podium positions. So what more can you ask for? We still do have one more race for this evening, and I believe the grid will be carried over from session to session. So those that finished on the podiums should either find themselves reversed or at the start of the grid. And right now we're just waiting for the remaining cars to get ready in their warm-up session. There's just a few more minutes left before we could do so, and this race is actually going to be slightly different from the one before. We have a much longer race, double the distance in fact of the previous race, so they're going to have to look after these tyres and potentially come into the pits to get some new tread. While we are waiting for that to happen, if you wouldn't mind just having a look in the description, you can find all of the details of the series in the links below. If you want to hit these guys up, you can look on Facebook, live timing, Discord, and also they have a Patreon service in case you want to help upkeep their servers and keep this racing action going. You can do so by hitting them up on those links there. And we are going into the next event now as we get into the grid session. So looks like they've cut the warm-up short to try and make up time for earlier, because of course we did have that second warm-up session before we went racing last time. So if we just cut this short, go back to the racing action and back on track here at Autopolis International for the second race, 20 laps this time to be had before we go and see the checkered flag. And it will be Patrick Hanko starting on pole position. This time round, he of course was on pole position in our qualifying session. So he has the luxury of starting at the front for the longer race this evening. Just while we're waiting for him to grid up, let's have a quick look at the starting order then. Patrick Hanko in the Royal Blue Racing car in first place, followed by Patrick Rosax in the AM4 Simsports, Jero Kalija in P3, and then we also have Andrea Rudio in 4, Francesco in P5, followed by Valeria Ferraris, and Antunis in P7, Drama Funtis in P8, followed by Nick Stefanenko in 9th, Luca Martino in P10, and then Vladislav Senkov in 11th. Christoforos in P12, and then moving on to the next sheet we have Victor Cabello in 13th, Joalem Rigo in 14th, Gerard Batalla in 15th, and then Christian Olari in 16th. Aleski Morsiv in 17th, Alex Maloney in 18th, Christian in 19th, and then Peter Zobek in 20th. And then in 21st, looks like we've got a new joiner just in the last minute, Jacob Kowalski for Zenkov Racing. He wasn't here for the first race, but looks like he's joining us for the second as we just start our warm-up lap once again here. It looks like Patrick Henko is really starting to send it on the warm-up lap here. He's deciding to go full out, that's for sure. And slowing things right down for the final few corners. Obviously feels that to gain temperature he needs to carry the speed. So an extra 6 laps to be had in the second race here at Autopolis International. Of course, that means that they'll have to look after their tyres even more so, as they all start to do their final adjustments as we line up for the start. You can see Hanko now, where he was carrying a lot of speed on that outlap. Now he finds himself rolling extremely slowly to the start-finish line, and that could be counterintuitive. He's no longer going to be gaining temperature in the tyres, as we now wait one final time for the cars to line up onto the grid. Looks like we may be missing someone from the start, potentially starting from pit lane. I'm not too sure. As we wait for the countdown from race control, and we'll go racing one more time, ladies and gents. Countdown begins. Patrick Hanko on pole position for the second race here, and we are off. It's a good start there from Royal Blue Racing. He is defending against Patrick Roska, who is switching over to the left-hand side with him. He looks down the inside, potentially going for the early overtake here, but has to settle back into second place. Jero Kajela in third, looking to attack as well. He's trying to make good headway on the run down towards turn 3. We have Royal Blue Racing on the inside line, going defensive. It looks like Patrick's on the attack. He's round the outside, into the inside for the turn 3 and 4. He's on the move, ladies and gents. He's going for the early attack into the hairpin, but Royal Blue Racing somehow carrying the speed through and just maintaining that first place. A wheel spin coming off Roska's car. That's going to cost him a bit, but of course they are on cold tyres, so it will take some time before we see that optimal temperature move up. Coming through the first sector then. It looks like Hanko is starting to move away. In the background, though, looks all fair and well as they go too wide here between João Mafitas and Francesco in the 15. Looks like they're both going for it as well. He's taken the position. Now up into P6 goes João Mafitas as we come down for the first time into Sector 3. Oh, but there's a car off. I don't know who that was. That looked like maybe it was Jacob, perhaps. It looks like someone's in the pits and someone's completely off track into the barriers. You've got to be so careful. We're still too wide here between these two. This is Nick Stefanenko. He's trying to find some space but not able to do so. He has to settle back into position. 8th place for the time being as we come to the end of the first lap. He's running deep into that final corner. Looks to switch back over to the left, and it's a train of cars. Oh, and even his teammate there, Rigo, the person who was fighting so ferociously at the end of that lap, is started off where he's starting where he left off. And there's a car coming across the track, and there's contact with Nick Stefanenko. That is one of the Arms Creeper cars. In fact, 3 or 4 cars being collected here coming down into the first corner. That is disastrous. Nick Stefanenko trying to get back underway. I'm not too sure who started that. It was definitely one of the Arms cars that started to spin on braking down into the first corner, and it all went horribly wrong. Seized completely the front tyres and then started to drift back over to the racing line. I don't think Nick Stefanenko or any of the other guys could have done anything about that. They were simply victims of that assault, that's for sure. In this fight for third place between Valerio Ferraris and Jure Kajala, coming down into Sector 3 now. We've also got his teammate in close by as well. He is sitting nice and tidy in P5 as he makes his way through the apex. New lap time there from Hanko. He's really starting to put the pace down. The tyres are up to temperature now after having completed 3 laps, and the gap up to 2.5 seconds already. Oh, there's a touch of grass there from Giro. He goes into the barrier. So easily done in these cars. We've said this before, and he's completely stationary. Unfortunately, he's at the side of the road as all the cars are now zooming by. He's going to have to wait for the entirety of the field to make its way by. He's lost his front wing for good measure as well. That's not the best way to end things, is it? He manages to get the car moving once again, but at what cost? All those positions now lost. Have a nice battle unfolding here between Rigo and Zubek for 9th place at the moment. Hanko continues to improve on his next flying lap, 1:28.7, the new fastest lap for this particular race. On board with Zubek as we come through sector 3. Always a slow car on the right. Who is that? Is that Cristiano Leary? I think it might be. Car moving extremely slowly. A lot of damage to it. It's one of the arms cars. And onto the start-finish straight. It's 0.3 seconds. And closing down quite quickly. In fact, 0.2 seconds. Is he going to be close enough? He looks down the inside. He's going to go for the move. Puts the nose there. Makes Rigo panic slightly, in fact. He runs wide onto the grass. And takes that position. So now up into 9th place there for Peter. So pretty much all the way from 3rd place downwards, we have a fight starting to occur in this order. And the next fight on our hands is between these two cars, Valerio Ferraris and Antonis in the 16. On board with Antonio now as we come onto the start finishing straight, already completing 5 laps of 20. These cars are very tough to handle. We've already had 3 retirements, unfortunately, Stefanenko being one of them after that contact in the first corner. That was such a massive takeout from one of the arms cars, just coming down to that first corner. There's nothing really they could have done about that, unfortunately. But we continue on. Still a strong grid of 17 cars. And now Antonis is starting to close this gap on Ferraris now. So the 35 is under threat. Coming down the hill towards turn 12. Antonis will have to think carefully where he wants to attack. Of course, there's still a long way to go in this race. If he makes the move and it goes wrong, he could completely destroy his tyres. And that's exactly what they're trying to avoid. They've got to make these things last. As a bit of lap traffic gets in the way there of Ferraris. Oh, nice twitching movement there from Antonis. He keeps it together just about as we come into the penultimate corner. Onto the start finishing straight we go. And that gap now closing. 0.2 seconds, 0.1 second as he comes down into the first corner. Is he going to go for the attack? Antonis down on the inside he goes. Valaris on the outside line. He gives him the space. He gives him the room. He's onto the grass. And the position is for Scuderia Papa Racing up into P3 now. Classic move there by Antonis. Nothing really Valerio could have done. I was expecting him to defend down the inside, but he didn't do so. And that allowed Antonis to just sweep on through. Great three-way fight starting to occur between this particular bunch of individuals. P6 being led by Zenkov, our previous winner just a few moments ago. And then we have Mosev rounding out the back in 7th place. So a nice train of cars all coming through. Royal Blue Racing making up 2 of those positions. Batala and Zubek. Down on the inside. Looks like one of them's going for the attack already. Thinks better of it. Wasn't able to make that stick. Nice aerial shot here of the action as it unfolds. Battala leading the two of the royal blue cars and fighting for 8th place. Let's see if they can make anything come together on this particular lap. We're fast approaching the halfway mark of this race. Looks like Peter's starting to get slightly impatient. He's just looking down the inside ever so slightly on his teammate, maybe giving him a hint to perhaps hurry up. He looks down the inside, he lets him through. Bit of team orders coming into play there. Perhaps Battala was realising that Peter Zobek was the stronger of the two at this stage of the race and lets him through. Already they're starting to lose ground. Zubek giving chase to Alexei Mosev. Nice train of cars coming down this hill at the moment. It looks like potentially Alexei starting to close in on Zenkov. Zobek has already made up the space. He's already within slipstream distance. Coming into the next set of corners. This is incredible pace here from the Royal Blue driver as he makes his way through the penultimate corner. Oh, really starting to push there. That's going to compromise that final corner. He's going to have to drop the speed through. He's going to have to be careful. Manages to hold it together. Very nicely done there from Zubek. I thought he was going to potentially run wide onto the grass on that final stretch, but doesn't do so. Is he going to look down the inside? He does. He looks down the inside. Oh, and there's contact between the two of them. Nicely held by Alexei there. He gets the back end slightly wild. And now we've got a Royal Blue Racing sandwich at the moment. They're going too wide. Don't want to take each other off, boys. Be careful about it. Battala takes the position back. Now straight back into P8 in this race. Yeah, good from Zubek there. He kind of backed out of that attack and allowed Alexei to regain some composure, just maintain that position. So good sportsmanship here. And we have one retirement. Patrick Rozak, who is currently sitting in 3rd, has just retired from the race. And that promotes Ferraris in the 35 up into position. There's a penalty there for Rozak. I'm not too sure what was going on there. We've had another retirement, the 99 as well. So the tally is starting to add up. We're starting quite a few casualties in this particular race. But this is a great four-way battle that we've got here. So we're going to stay with these guys for the time being, unless we have a fight for the podium start to unfold. We are keeping an eye on Valeria Ferraris and Joama Fitas in the 13. They're starting to come together. 0.5 seconds between those two. We'll stay with these guys though, because of course they are going too wide. Battala on the attack. Alexei on the outside line and already cleared by Gerald. And up into 6th place. The next person in his target zone will be Zenkov. On board with Zubek as he's at the back of the field, looking on at the action ahead, waiting for an opportunity to arrive. On the way down the hill, looks like a good run here from Zubek. He's going to go for the attack on Mosev. Mosev went very aggressively into the turn 12. Carried all of the speed. Unable to hold that position. It was a very risky move there from Zubek. Not probably one of the best places to overtake. It's very fast indeed. You need to be firmly alongside if you're going to commit to a move like that. Zenkov leading this pack into the next lap. We've had quite a few retirements, only 14 cars still with us. Luca Martino, the next one to add to the list of DNFs. So it's really starting to take its toll on the drivers now. Autopolis is showing its darker side indeed. Now Zenkov comes across the start finishing line. We've got that battle for third as well between Valerio and Joema. So we'll have to keep an eye on that as best we can. Here comes Batalla on the attack on Zenkov for 5th place. Only 0.3 seconds separating these two now. Both on a really strong drive at the moment. Batalla up by 9 positions. Zenkov up by 6 positions. So they're both doing extremely well here. Oh, and Zubek, just as we was watching that particular onboard footage, unfortunately Zubek has got past the 95. Mosiv has been demoted into 8th place, so sorry for missing that particular bit of action, but that was quite an important overtake there for the Royal Blue Racing driver. He's now back with his teammate, and they can, as a team, now start to look forward towards overtaking Zenkov. Oh, here they go. They're actually teaming up. On his contact between the two of them. Slides across the front of his teammate there. Narrowly misses it, I'm sure. Batalla will need a change of underwear after that one. That was a huge moment for both the drivers. They just momentarily touched tyres. And that was enough to send both the cars off wildly. Zenkov rejoins the race in 7th place. Zubek in 9th. Batalla just slides between the two of them. I'm sure there'll be some slow-mo footage of that laying around somewhere later on this evening for those that are interested. But what an incredible moment that was. And Rigo in the number 12 there for advanced competition now finds himself in a really good position to attack for 7th place. Coming down the hill into Sector 3. Of course, for the car following in this particular portion of the track, they get quite a bit of understeer. Of course, R-Factor2 is very good at simulating dirty air, as Rigo actually suffers a bit of oversteer. Usually you would expect them to suffer from understeer following so closely. And into the penultimate corner. Here we are once again onto the start finishing straight, and we have one of the Royal Blue cars coming into pit lane. That's Peter Sobek. Obviously in need of attention and repairs after that small bit of contact with Zenkov. On board with Rigo now as he gives chase. That gap down to 0.6 seconds. It seems to be fluctuating. Both got very different driving styles for particular portions of a lap, it seems. And that slipstream firmly in the favour of Rigo now as he comes up into the braking zone at turn 11. Closes that gap down very nicely indeed. 0.2 seconds now. Catapults his way onto the downhill section. And Zenkov carrying a lot of speed through that particular corner. You can see smoke coming off that front left tyre as it takes the full load of the car. And Rigo touching the curb. That unsettles his car slightly. That's not what he wants at this stage of the race. He wants to be able to close that gap down and apply pressure to the car ahead. But we now have this fight for third on our hands. This is Valerio Ferraris and Joama in close battle. This is 0.3 seconds between them. Is he going to go for the inside? No, he's not, so he's going to play this very safe indeed. And yeah, only 14 cars currently running, unfortunately, in the latter stage of this race. And you've also got Batalla in the background there in P5. He's starting to close in on these two guys for the podium. So we could potentially have a three-way fight for third in a few moments' time. That'll be interesting. And you've also still got Alexei Mosiv in the mix as well. He's currently sitting in 6th. He's a further second behind Batalla at the moment. So we may, if they continue to, or if they start to fight with one another as we come to the closing stages of this second race, we may have a four-way fight for third place. And Batalla's really starting to close these guys down, actually. In the last lap alone, he's knocked off at least a second. Coming onto the start, finishing straight to complete lap 14. Still 6 to go. And we're side by side. Here they go, Valera Ferraris and Juama in the 13, going side by side. He decides to back out of it, but here's Batalla. He's in on the action as well. Royal Blue Racing right in the mix. He's on the tailcoat and he's looking for a middle sector, but he can't find it. Down on the inside goes Juama. And also Royal Blue Racing looking for the long way round. He's going to try and send it down the inside into the hairpin. No, he thinks better of it. Arms Racing defending with everything they've got. Ferraris, what can he do now? He's pretty much a sitting duck. He's got to get back up to racing speed as best he can. Into turn 11 now. And it looks like Zubek is now setting the fastest lap times of anyone out there. But he's all the way down in 11th place, so that is a shame. So this is our battle for third, ladies and gents. And Ferraris is holding off Batalla with everything he's got for fourth. There's this great aerial shot here as we come through the third sector here at Autopolis. And it just shows how technical the circuit is. You've got to set these cars up corners ahead of where you want them to be. Into the final corner now. Slipstream will be in fact. This could be Batalla's chance. He's got the slipstream. He's close enough for it. Reaching the high end speed of these cars. And he's down on the inside. He's going to be able to clear Ferraris before even entering the corner, which he does. That's a nice classic move there from the 19. But it's not over yet. Here comes the attack from Ferraris. He's going to try and go for the outside line. Royal Blue Racing heads it off though. Cuts that off. And maintains that position. Mosiv is also in on the mix. He's been able to close in while these guys are too busy battling in the last couple of laps. He's also now in the fight for fourth place. Looks like the 13 is starting to make good ground on these guys. So he's maintaining that third place for the moment. On board with Alexei Mosiv as they come down towards turns 12. Look at the different speed carries. A mistake there from Ferraris as we come into the last final 5 laps. That is a pretty big moment in this race. He's not going to be able to make up that ground so easily. Ferraris just running onto the grass, carrying too much speed into turn 12, and that's all it took to open the door there for Alexei in the 95. He's now up into 5th place. That's a good haul of positions, up by 12 places since the start of this race, as is Batalla up by 11 places. So they're both really on a charge. We have got a three-way fight in the background as well between the number 12, that's Rigo, Christoforos Karolis in the 11, and then Andrea Rudi in the 7 as well. So this is a three-way fight for 8th place in our closing stages here. Such a long left-hand turn here. Turns 8 and 9 actually counts as 2 corners. It's that long. Need to manage that throttle so preciously as we come into the hairpin at turn 11. Of course, a lot of understeer here as they're trying to fight, get the car back. The nose of the car pointing down once again. Oh, a bit of a mistake here coming from Rudy, the number 7, going onto the grass. That's going to cost him a few precious tenths. And of course, that's bad news for his teammate Rigo as he tries to do his best to hold off the 11. Carolis on the attack, 0.3 seconds coming into the final corner. Looks very stable indeed. He's clearly got the advantage in speed at the moment as he comes down onto the start finishing straight. The slipstream will be in effect as Carolis closes that gap. Look at the excess speed coming past Rigo at the moment. He's on the attack, definitely down the inside. He's going to be able to clear the competition ASRC car before we even get to the apex, and that's a classic move. Can Rigo come back on the attack though into the next set of corners? No, he can't. Just not enough time for the slipstream to do its work, and he now has to settle in 9th place. His teammate, of course, for company in 10th. I'll have to wait and see if they're going to do battle, but we're going to switch back to the fight for 3rd place because Batalla and the Royal Blue Racing car is actually, they've already overtaken Drama in the 13, so my apologies for missing that, but we have a new podium position on our hands. Batalla and the 19 for Royal Blue Racing on the podium positions. That's a gain of 12 places since the start of this race. That is incredible. Okay, this is interesting. We have Peter Zurbeck. He earlier set the fastest lap of this race, and he's on a charge. Currently sitting in 11th place himself, and looking to overtake the 2 yellow Formula 3 cars. He's going around the outside. He's got new tyres on that car. We know that he suffered damage. He went into the pit lane, and he is making them work, that's for sure. He takes that position clearly. He's in the slipstream. Rudy will have the slipstream back though. He's coming straight on the attack once again. The counter-offensive has begun. Still not enough time to get alongside and pose a real threat to Peter Zurbeck, who is continuing his attack on Rigo as well. So the 13, or sorry, the number 12 now. Oh, and they make contact. Coming into turn 13, the back ends step out. There's huge puffs of smoke from all 8 tyres. And I don't know how, but both teams able to retain that. And Zurbeck goes through without any further dramas. That could have ended very badly indeed. As we have one more final lap. And we have these 2 on the attack as well. Vladislav Zenkov defending on Christoforos Kariolis in the 11 car. Coming through sector 3 as we speak. He will have one final opportunity to attack as we are now on the penultimate lap. This is actually starting to become a 3-way fight as Peter Zurbeck is in the background as well. Those new tyres are working a treat for him at the moment in the 22. That car seems to be unstoppable. He's going round the outside on that new compound, and Christoforos not able to do anything about it. He's now down into 9th place. Peter Zurbeck on his charge even still. Zenkov, the next person in line to be attacked for 7th place. Through the double left-hander we go. This car is pretty much the fastest thing on track at the moment, it seems. Down the hill we go. I don't think he's going to make a move just as of yet. Wait for the best opportunity here. Zubek, you're going to have a time when we get onto the start-finish straight. That'll be the best opportunity for him, as we have now officially started the final lap here, ladies and gents. Lap 20 of 20 has been started by Patrick Hanko, who has pretty much led from start to finish this particular race. He started on pole position. He will finish in first place, provided nothing happens. Look at the line that Peter Zubek is taking here. He's going extremely high so that he can then cut down onto that start-finish straight. He's already alongside Zenkov, coming across the start-finishing line. Royal Blue Racing on the move up into P7 he goes. He's being forced onto the outside line though. Zenkov defends as best he can, and they make contact. And that is not the best way to do things. Looks like Zenkov got squeezed him off from this particular perspective. That has allowed Christoforos in the 11 car to go back on through there. So he's got to do all this hard work once again. Zubek is definitely making it difficult for them to retain those positions though. He's trying to set the car up as best he can to make this work for him. He's 0.2 seconds behind Christoforos now. Will we see Ascend? And we have seen Ascend down into turn 11, the hairpin. And the switch back here from Christoforos. He's going to be able to make that work. No, he's not. He switches over to the inside line. Onto the racing line goes Zubek. And holding that position nicely. Here comes Zenkov though. He's closing that gap. Is he going to be able to make it work? I know the leaders have already finished the race, but this is the battle here on our hands. I don't want to switch over to it just as of yet. Coming into the final corner. Last opportunity here for Peter Zubek. He's going a long way round. He's side by side with Zenkov. They both go onto the final corner. Hits a touch of the curves. And Zubek actually takes the position. Zenkov loses control, collects Christoforos in the process. He's spinning around and around. He's going to be sick in a minute as he gets across the finishing line. And at the line, Andrea Rudy steals that position away for competition racing. That is incredible stuff there. What a finish that was. But let's quickly switch back to our winners here, ladies and gents. Your winner for the second race of this evening is Patrick Hanko for Royal Blue Racing. He's led from start to finish. He is your second winner for the first round of the Formula 3 World Series Championship. What a way to end this race, ladies and gents. That was incredible stuff there from the guys all the way to the finishing line indeed. And then in second place we've got Antonis in the 16, and then Gerald Batalla in the second of the Royal Blue Racing cars. He's done a fantastic job to come home in third place as well. And this looks like going for a small parade lap to celebrate, because of course Royal Blue Racing, a double podium finish for them, first and third. So very strong result for both drivers there as they come on to the final start finish straight for this evening before heading back into pit lane. Congratulations to both those guys. So, ladies and gents, let's bring up the official results for you. That was something, wasn't it? If you have enjoyed that, don't forget to like this video and also get in touch with the guys at ASRC. So the results for you for the second race here at Autopolis International Raceway. As already mentioned, Patrick Hanko, Royal Blue Racing, taking victory in that second race. Having started from pole position, the gap was up to at least 20 plus seconds. It was a staggering performance there from the driver. Unfortunately retired in the previous round, so had to rectify things, and it did very well to do so. Antonis in the 16 from Scuderia Kappa Racing in second place. Great result for the team there as well. And then third place, rounding up those podium positions, Gerald Batalla. He had to fight his way to the front in order to attain that position, and that's a great result for the team there. Joama in the Toyota Gome Sport in 4th place, and then Alexei Mosiv for AM Forces Simsports in P5. Valerio Ferraris in 6th for the Arms Racing team, and then Vladislav Zenkov, fantastic racing there, for P7. Peter Zobek in 8th for Royal Blue Racing, although if I'm not mistaken they finished the other way around, so maybe a penalty was added to the results already, but I'm pretty sure Vladislav Zenkov finished behind Zubek, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong, apologies if I am, but there you go. Andrea Rudy, he really did charge at the line for advanced competition to finish 9th place ahead of Christoforos Kariolis in P10. That car was spinning like I don't know, it's like one of them fireworks you put on the tree that spin round and round. He must have done at least 3 or 4 donuts before coming to a halt, and Andrew was right on standby to take that position. It must have been milliseconds between the two of them. That is your top 10 positions for you there, ladies and gents. And then following on to the second sheet, we have Christian Olari Leping in 11th place, Guilherme Rigo in 12th. Great fighting between those two. Alex Maloney in 13th, and then Victor Cabello in 14th. Luca Martino, these are all DNFs past this point, unfortunately. High retirement count in the second race of this evening. Then we have Patrick Rosax, very fast driver, unfortunately retiring. There was a lot of contact in the first corner. Christian in for the Racing Matters Most in P17. Jero Kalija in 18th. Francesco for the second of the Arms cars in 19th, and then Nick Stefanenko 20th, also retiring, unfortunately. So they won't be scoring any points as a result of those retirements. That is really sad news. However, you know, all's fair in love and war, unfortunately, and this is racing. But those are the results for the second race for you there, ladies and gents. Let's have a quick look at the schedule, see what's up next for you. We've just, of course, completed Autopolis, the first round here of the Formula 3 World Series Championship, and then on the 27th of September we'll be heading to Okayama. Very technical circuit, a lot of low slow speed corners to be had there. It's going to be very tricky, and a very narrow piece of raceway as well, so the tarmac will not provide a lot of overtaking opportunities. Raced there many times myself, I can say that much. So we'll see who is able to take that one home, and fingers crossed we will see plenty of racing action there. And then after that we of course go to Europe. But that's it from us here at Checkered Flag Simsports. If you do like what you're seeing, and if you do like what the guys are doing, then please do hit them up in the descriptions below. You've got all the links to the championship and the series. I'm sure they'll be happy to talk with you and to hit you up with anything you need to do in order to sign up. But other than that, it's been some fantastic racing here. Thank you very much to ASRC for using us here at CFS once again. It's been fantastic to cover your races once again, and we will be signing off for this evening. Unfortunately, it's been a very quick race or 2 sprint races for us both, but unfortunately we're going to have to sign off. So thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you on the next one. Take care and goodbye.